Have you ever wondered why the good guys, who play by the rules and act with integrity, so often seem to finish last? Why do certain people, who seem to lack empathy and operate on a different moral frequency, effortlessly climb the ladder of success and influence? The truth is, there is a hidden rulebook for human interaction, a playbook of psychological power that most people are never taught. They operate on a level of strategic deception that is invisible to the untrained eye. This book is your copy of that playbook. It is not designed to turn you into a ruthless monster. It is designed to ensure you are never again a monster's victim. We will deconstruct the art of deception, not so you can master it for malicious ends, but so you can recognize it, defend against it, and understand the deep principles of power that you can then apply ethically to achieve your own mastery. Mastering the Art of Deception, the Machiavellian Playbook, written and published by Stealth Psychology. Chapter 1. Unlocking Mind Games. Imagine you are in an important meeting. You have a well-thought-out idea, and when the moment is right, you present it clearly and concisely. The room is quiet. A few people nod politely, but the conversation quickly moves on. You feel a familiar sting of disappointment, of being overlooked. 10 minutes later, a more charismatic colleague presents a slightly rephrased version of your exact same idea, but they do it with an air of unshakable certainty and a compelling narrative. Suddenly the room comes alive. The idea is praised as brilliant, and your colleague receives all the credit. You are left sitting in silence, feeling invisible, and questioning your own value. This painful experience is a classic example of a mind game. It is not about the quality of the idea. It is about the dynamics of power and perception. The problem for most honest, hardworking people is that they believe the world operates on a single visible level, the level of facts, logic, and fairness. They are playing checkers. But a select few are playing an entirely different game on a different board at the same time. They are playing chess. They understand that every interaction is a game with hidden objectives, unspoken rules, and psychological strategies. You are focused on following the spoken rules, while they are focused on winning the unspoken game. This is why you feel perpetually outmaneuvered, frustrated, and powerless. The transformative solution is to stop being a pawn in a game you do not understand and to become the master of the board. The powerful mindset shift you must make is from being a participant to becoming a game theorist of your own life. A participant takes every interaction at face value. A game theorist understands that every interaction is a complex system with hidden variables, and their goal is to identify those variables. You will learn to stop listening only to what people say and start observing what they do, what they want, and what role they are trying to make you play. This is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming discerning. It is about understanding the reality of human nature so that you are no longer a victim of it. The benefit of this approach is that you reclaim your power through awareness. You can no longer be blindsided by a move you did not see coming, because you are now watching the entire board. You move from a state of reactive confusion to proactive clarity, able to navigate the complex social world with confidence and skill. To begin thinking like a game theorist, you must first master the principle of the hidden objective. In any given interaction, the stated purpose of the conversation is rarely the true objective. People's real motivations are almost always hidden beneath the surface. They might say they are asking for your opinion, when what they really want is your validation. They might say they need your help, when what they really want is for you to do their work for them. They might start an argument about a trivial issue, when their real objective is to create drama and see you emotionally distressed. This works as a manipulative tactic because as long as you are focused on the surface-level topic, you are distracted from the real game being played. To apply this principle, you must become a motivation detective. In any interaction, ask yourself, putting aside what we are actually talking about, what does this person want to feel right now? What do they want me to do? For example, a friend constantly complains about their difficult job, but shoots down every piece of practical advice you offer. The stated objective is, I need help with my job situation. But after the third or fourth time this happens, The game theorist realizes the hidden objective is not to find a solution. It is to secure your ongoing attention and sympathy. They do not want advice, they want an audience. Once you realize this, you stop wasting your energy offering solutions and can choose how you want to engage with their real objective. The second principle to master is recognizing the second conversation. Every human interaction has two conversations happening simultaneously. The first is the verbal conversation, the actual words being spoken. The second is the nonverbal conversation, the tone of voice, the body language, the eye contact, the pauses. The amateur listens to the first conversation. The master listens to the second, because the second conversation is always the truth. A person's body and tone will betray their real feelings long before their words do. This principle works because over 90% of human communication is nonverbal, and it is much harder to consciously control than our words. A silent manipulator might say all the right things, but their underlying hostility or dismissiveness will leak out through their nonverbal cues. An actionable step to train your perception of this is to practice mute mode observation. The next time you are watching a talk show or a political debate on television, turn the sound off for a few minutes. Just watch the speaker's body language. Who is leaning in? Who is defensive and closed off? Who is projecting confidence? Who seems nervous? You will be amazed at how much you can understand about the power dynamics of the interaction without hearing a single word. Then, start applying this in your daily life. When your boss says, "I'm open to feedback," but their arms are tightly crossed and their jaw is clenched, you listen to the second conversation and know that now is not the time to offer criticism. The third principle of a game theorist is to identify your assigned role. In their mind games, manipulators do not see you as an individual. They see you as a character who serves a purpose in their personal drama. They will try to cast you in a specific role that benefits them. Common roles include the scapegoat who gets blamed for all their problems, the adoring fan who provides them with constant validation, the reliable helper who does all their work for them, or the competitor who they must constantly try to one-up. This works because as long as you unconsciously accept and play the role they have assigned you, you are acting according to their script, and they maintain control of the narrative. To break free, you must first identify the role you have been cast in. Ask yourself, in my interactions with this person, what pattern of behavior do they consistently try to elicit from me? How do they want me to see myself in relation to them? For example, a narcissistic family member might constantly create chaos and then position you as the responsible one who has to mediate the fights and clean up the emotional mess. They will praise you for being so mature and the rock of the family. These are not compliments. They are instructions on how to play your role. Once you see this, you can choose to refuse the casting call. The next time they create drama, you can calmly say, "That sounds very stressful. I hope you can all work it out." And then you strategically and calmly exit the conversation. You have refused to play your part, which short-circuits their entire game. By understanding the hidden objective, listening to the second conversation, and identifying your assigned role, you are no longer just a piece in someone else's game. You are an observer, a strategist, an analyst who understands the board. You have unlocked the first and most important level of the playbook. But seeing the game is one thing, influencing its outcome is another. Now that you can see the moves, how do you begin to make your own? How do you move from being a defensive player to one who can skillfully and ethically persuade others to align with your goals? The next chapter will dive into the potent and often misunderstood art of persuasion. Remember to subscribe to Stealth Psychology, give this video a like, and comment with your personal opinions or suggestions for channel development. Chapter 2: The Power of Persuasion. Imagine you see two people trying to move a large, stubborn boulder. The first person stands in front of the boulder and pushes against it with all their might. They strain, they grunt, they sweat, but the boulder does not budge. In fact, the harder they push, the more firmly it seems to be wedged in the ground. The second person, however, does not push at all. They walk around the boulder, they examine the ground beneath it, and they find the perfect spot to insert a long lever. Then, with what seems like minimal effort, they gently lean on the end of the lever, and the huge boulder shifts and rolls. This is the difference between arguing and persuading. Arguing is a brute force attack on a person's position. Persuasion is the art of finding the right psychological lever to make moving that position feel easy and natural. The problem that most people face is that they approach every disagreement like the first person. They believe that persuasion is a battle of facts and logic. They assemble their arguments like an army and launch a frontal assault on the other person's wrong ideas. The result is almost always a stalemate. The other person becomes defensive, their ego gets involved, and they become more committed to their original position, not less. We are left feeling frustrated, thinking that the other person is simply stubborn or irrational, failing to see that our own strategy was doomed from the start. The transformative solution is to completely redefine your understanding of persuasion. It is not about winning a debate, it is about building a bridge. The powerful mindset shift is from logical confrontation to emotional connection. You must accept the fundamental truth that human beings are not logical creatures. We are emotional creatures who use logic to justify our emotional decisions. Therefore, to change someone's mind, you must first connect with their emotional state. The core concept you will learn is strategic empathy. This is not the same as sympathy, which is feeling sorry for someone. Strategic empathy is the skill of accurately identifying and articulating the other person's emotional reality and core motivations, even if you do not agree with them. When you can demonstrate that you truly understand where someone is coming from, their defensive walls come down, and they become receptive to your influence. The benefit is that you stop wasting your energy in pointless arguments and start having profoundly effective conversations. You become a psychological architect, designing a pathway that leads the other person to your conclusion, a path they will happily walk because it feels like their own. The first principle of building this bridge is the principle of the rapport foundation. You cannot persuade someone who sees you as an adversary. You must first establish a baseline of trust and liking. People are infinitely more likely to be influenced by those they feel a connection with. A master persuader will spend the majority of their time and energy building this rapport foundation before they even begin to introduce their own ideas. This works because it taps into our primal need to belong to a tribe. Once someone feels that you are like them and that you are on their side, their brain switches from a defensive, critical mode to a more open, collaborative mode. An actionable way to build rapport quickly is through the technique of mirroring and matching. This involves subtly and respectfully mirroring the other person's body language, speech tempo, and tone of voice. If they speak slowly and calmly, you slow your own speech down. If they lean forward with excitement, you lean forward as well. This is not about mimicry. It is about creating a subconscious sense of harmony. For example, in a negotiation with a potential business partner, if you notice they use a particular phrase often, like bottom line, you can incorporate that same phrase into your own conversation later. This sends a subconscious signal, I am like you, we speak the same language. This creates a powerful feeling of connection that makes the subsequent persuasion much easier. The second principle is entering their worldview. Before you can hope to guide someone to your point of view, you must first demonstrate that you are willing to stand beside them and see the world through their eyes. This is the practical application of strategic empathy. You must be able to articulate their position, their concerns, and their feelings so accurately that they say to themselves, this person really gets it. This works because it is the ultimate form of validation. When you show someone that you understand them on a deep level, you completely neutralize their need to be defensive. They no longer have to fight to be heard, because you have already shown them that you have heard them. The most effective technique for this is the summary and validation method. When someone voices an objection or a strong opinion, your first response should not be a counter-argument. It should be a summary of what they just said, followed by a validation of the emotion behind it. For example, if a team member says, I don't think this new project is a good idea. It's going to be way too much work. You would respond with, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're concerned about the workload and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by the prospect of this new project. And that makes perfect sense, given everything else that's on our plate. You have summarized their point, too much work, and validated their emotion, overwhelmed. You have not agreed that the project is a bad idea, but you have built a powerful bridge of understanding. Once you have built the foundation of rapport and entered their worldview, you are ready for the third principle, the art of the reframe. You do not change a person's mind by telling them their picture is wrong. You change their mind by giving them a new, more empowering frame to put around their existing picture. A reframe is a change in perspective, a way of looking at the same set of facts but assigning a different, more positive or more useful meaning to them. This works because you are not invalidating their reality. You are expanding it. You are not fighting their perception. You are upgrading it. After you have summarized and validated their concern, you can introduce the reframe. To the team member who is feeling overwhelmed, you could continue by saying, I understand the concern about the workload. I was thinking about it a different way. I was seeing this project not as more work, but as a huge opportunity for us to showcase our skills to senior management and potentially secure a bigger budget for our department next year. You have taken their problem, more work, and reframed it as an opportunity, more recognition and resources. You have given them a new, more persuasive lens through which to view the same situation. The power of persuasion is not about having the best arguments. It is about creating the best connection. It is the art of making agreement feel like a natural and desirable outcome for both parties. You have learned how to build rapport, how to validate other people's worlds, and how to reframe their perceptions. You are no longer pushing against the boulder. You are using the lever. But what about the specific tactical tricks that are used not just to persuade, but to manipulate? What are the classic setups and psychological traps that masters of deception use to get a yes, even when it is against our better judgment? The next chapter will delve into these specific tricks of the trade, not so you can use them, but so you can spot them, dismantle them, and become immune to their effects. Remember to subscribe to Stealth Psychology, give this video a like, and comment with your personal opinions or suggestions for channel development. Chapter 3. Tricks of the Trade. Imagine you are walking through a busy marketplace. A street magician asks you to pick a card, any card. You do so, and after a series of shuffles and flourishes, he correctly identifies your card. You are amazed. Later, you watch him again, but this time, you stand behind him. You see the subtle way he holds the deck, the tiny, practiced movement that forces a particular card into the spectator's hand. The trick that seemed like magic from the front is revealed to be a simple, predictable mechanical process from the back. The tricks of the trade in psychological deception are exactly like this. From the front, they can feel like powerful, irresistible forces that make us agree to things against our will. We walk away from an interaction feeling confused and exploited, wondering, how did they get me to do that? The problem is that most people are always standing in front of the magician. They only see the effect, not the method. They are unaware of the classic, time-tested psychological setups that are being used on them every day by salespeople, by advertisers, by bosses, and sometimes even by friends and family. They keep falling for the same tricks because they do not know how the tricks are performed. The transformative solution is to metaphorically step behind the magician. You must learn the mechanics of these tricks, not to become a deceptive street performer yourself, but to become a member of the audience who can no longer be fooled. The powerful mindset shift is from, I am susceptible to being tricked, to, I am a student of deceptive techniques, and I can spot them from a mile away. The core concept is deconstruction for immunity. By taking apart these common manipulative tactics, understanding the psychological principles they exploit, and seeing them in action, you are effectively inoculating yourself against them. The trick that is seen is a trick that has lost its power. The benefit of this is that you move through the world with a new level of savvy and confidence. You are no longer a naive spectator, but a discerning analyst who can protect your own interests, your time, and your money from those who would use these tricks against you. The first classic trick you must learn to recognize is the foot-in-the-door technique. This is a persuasion tactic that involves getting a person to agree to a small, trivial request first. This initial agreement then makes them much more likely to agree to a second, larger request later. The manipulator knows that it is hard to get a yes to a big commitment right away, so they start small to get their foot in the door of your compliance. This works because of the psychological principle of consistency. Once we have made a decision or taken a stand, like saying yes to the first small request, we feel an internal pressure to behave consistently with that commitment. Saying no to the second, larger request would create a feeling of dissonance or hypocrisy. A classic example of this is the salesperson who asks, "Would you be willing to answer just 3 quick questions about your current internet service?" This is a small, easy yes. After you have answered the questions, they follow up with the larger request. "Great. Based on your answers, I can see you are paying way too much. I can get a technician out to your house tomorrow to install our much faster, cheaper fiber optic system. What time works for you?" Having already engaged and complied, you are now psychologically primed to continue on that path. The defense against this is to recognize the pattern. When you are met with a small, seemingly innocent request from someone who is likely to want more from you, you must pause and ask yourself, what is the second request that is probably coming? You can then choose to politely decline the first small step, stating, "I'm not interested in discussing this right now. Thank you." You are closing the door before they can get their foot in. The second and opposite trick is the door-in-the-face technique. This is a powerful tactic where the manipulator begins by making a very large, often outrageously unreasonable request, a request they know you will almost certainly refuse. After you say no to this large request, they immediately follow up with a second, much smaller request, which was their real goal all along. This works by leveraging 2 psychological principles, guilt and reciprocal concessions. First, you feel a slight pang of guilt for having to refuse their initial request. Second, you perceive their smaller second request as a compromise on their part. Because they have made a concession, you feel a powerful subconscious obligation to make a concession in return by saying yes. For example, a coworker comes to you and asks, "Could you please cover my entire week of shifts next week while I go on a last-minute vacation?" You will almost certainly say no. They will then look disappointed and say, "Oh, okay, I understand. Well, in that case, could you at least just cover my Friday shift so I can leave a little early?" Compared to the initial outrageous request, this now seems incredibly reasonable. You are likely to agree, even though you might not have if they had just asked for the Friday shift from the start. The defense is to see the setup for what it is. When you are hit with an unreasonably large request, you must be on high alert for the smaller, real request that is about to follow. You can calmly refuse the first request, and when the second one comes, you can evaluate it on its own merits, not as a compromise. You can say, "Let me think about that and get back to you," which breaks the spell of the immediate reciprocity pressure. The third trick of the trade is manufacturing scarcity. This tactic involves creating a false sense of urgency by suggesting that an opportunity is in limited supply or that a deadline is fast approaching. This is a favorite tool of advertisers and high-pressure salespeople, but it is also used in personal relationships. It works by triggering our primal fear of missing out, FOMO. When we believe that a valuable resource is scarce, our rational, deliberative thinking gets short-circuited, and we are pushed into making a quick, often emotional decision. The classic sales pitch, "This is the last one we have in stock," or "The price goes up tomorrow," are textbook examples. In a personal context, a manipulative partner might use this to rush a commitment, saying, "I need to know if you're serious about this relationship, because I have other people who are interested in me." They are creating a false scarcity of their affection to force you into a decision. The defense against this is to make it your personal policy to never make an important decision under pressure. When you feel the rush of scarcity being used on you, you must pause, take a deep breath, and say the most powerful phrase in your defensive arsenal: "I need some time to think about this." If they insist that the decision must be made now, you can calmly say, "If the only option is to decide right now, then my answer has to be no." This reclaims your power and gives you back the space you need for rational thought. You are now equipped to see the hidden mechanics behind some of the most common tricks of the trade. You can spot the foot in the door, you can see the door in the face, and you can feel the false pressure of manufactured scarcity. You are no longer an easy mark. But these are individual tricks. What about the manipulator who is not just using a single trick, but is playing a long and complex game, treating the people in their life not as equals, but as pieces to be moved around a board for their own benefit? How do you defend yourself against someone who sees you as a pawn? The next chapter will explore the mindset of the master strategist and teach you how to protect yourself from being played. Remember to subscribe to Stealth Psychology, give this video a like, and comment with your personal opinions or suggestions for channel development. Chapter 4. Playing People Like Pawns. Imagine a grandmaster chess player looking at the board. They do not just see 32 individual pieces. They see a complex, interconnected system of power, a web of potential threats and opportunities. They are not just thinking about their next move, they are thinking 10 moves ahead, anticipating their opponent's strategy and subtly guiding the game toward a victory that was planned from the very beginning. This is precisely how a master manipulator views human social dynamics. To them, people are not individuals with their own complex inner worlds. They are pawns on a chessboard, each with a specific function and a predictable set of moves. They are pieces to be positioned, sacrificed, and maneuvered to serve a larger, hidden agenda. The problem for most good-natured people is that they see themselves as individuals, not as pawns. They engage with the manipulator one-on-one, believing the interaction is just between the two of them. They are completely unaware of the larger game being played around them, the moves being made on the other side of the board. They feel constantly outmaneuvered by colleagues, family members, or social rivals who seem to be 10 steps ahead. They are blindsided by attacks that seem to come from nowhere, and they feel confused when people they trust suddenly turn against them. They do not realize that these events are not random. They are the calculated results of a strategy they cannot see. The transformative solution is to stop focusing on your individual piece and to learn to see the entire chessboard. The powerful mindset shift is from seeing yourself as an individual player to becoming a strategic systems thinker. This does not mean you will learn to treat people like pawns. On the contrary, you will learn to see the game so clearly that you can never be played as a pawn again. It is about developing a high-level strategic awareness of the networks of influence, loyalty, and power that exist in every social and professional environment. By understanding the system, you can anticipate moves, neutralize threats before they materialize, and protect yourself from being used as a tool in someone else's game. The benefit of this is that you move from a state of being a reactive victim of complex social dynamics to a proactive and protected strategist. You are no longer just a piece on the board. You are the one who understands the game better than the person trying to play you. The first principle of strategic systems thinking is mapping the web of influence. In any social structure, whether it is an office or a family, power is not distributed equally. Certain individuals hold more influence than others. A master manipulator understands this intuitively. They know that the most efficient way to influence a group is not to persuade each individual, but to win over the key influencer. To defend yourself, you must learn to map this web. This works because it allows you to see the hidden pathways of power and predict how information and influence will flow. An actionable step is to literally draw a simple diagram of your key social or professional circle. Represent each person with a circle, and then draw arrows between them to indicate the primary direction of influence. Who does everyone listen to? Who is the social hub? Who is the secret gossip who disseminates information? Who is the gatekeeper that the boss always consults? For example, in an office, you might realize that while your boss is the official authority, their executive assistant is the true gatekeeper of information and influence. A manipulator who wants to sabotage you will not attack you directly. They will subtly poison the executive assistant's opinion of you, knowing that this will be far more effective. By having your map, you know that protecting your relationship with the assistant is a key defensive priority. The second principle is identifying the flying monkeys. This term, famously drawn from The Wizard of Oz, refers to the people whom a narcissist or manipulator enlists to do their bidding, often without the person even realizing they are being used. These are the enablers, the allies, and the messengers who deliver the manipulator's attacks, guilt trips, and smear campaigns for them. This works as a brilliant manipulative tactic because it allows the manipulator to keep their own hands clean while creating the impression that an entire group of people is against you. The pain of being attacked by a trusted friend or sibling is often far greater than being attacked by the manipulator themselves. To defend against this, you must learn to distinguish the message from the messenger. When an attack comes from an unexpected source, your first question should be, who benefits from me hearing this? For instance, after you have set a firm boundary with a manipulative parent, you suddenly get a phone call from your favorite aunt who says, "I'm so worried about your mother. You're being so hard on her. Can't you just call her and apologize?" Your aunt is not being malicious. She is being used as a flying monkey. The amateur gets angry at the aunt. The strategist recognizes the aunt as a pawn. The correct defensive move is not to argue with the flying monkey, but to set a calm boundary with them. "I love you very much, but my relationship with my mother is between us, and I am not willing to discuss it with you." You refuse to engage with the manipulated message, which neutralizes the attack. The third and most complex strategic game to recognize is triangulation. This is a classic tactic where the manipulator creates a triangle of conflict between themselves and two other people to maintain control. They do this by becoming the exclusive channel of communication between the other two parties. They will tell one person a distorted version of what the other person said, and vice versa. This works because it sows distrust, paranoia, and jealousy between the other two individuals, preventing them from forming an alliance against the manipulator. It positions the manipulator in the powerful central role of being the only one who knows the full story, forcing the other two to come to them for information and validation. A classic example is a boss who tells employee A, "You know, employee B expressed some serious concerns about your contribution to the project." Then, the boss goes to employee B and says, "Just a heads up, employee A seems to be feeling like they're carrying the whole team." Now, employee A and employee B view each other as adversaries, and their communication breaks down. They both become more dependent on the boss. The only way to dismantle a triangulation is to break the triangle by creating a direct line of communication. The empowered move is for employee A to go directly to employee B and say, "The boss mentioned you had some concerns about my work. I wanted to talk to you about it directly so we can make sure we're on the same page." This direct communication exposes the game and removes the manipulator's power as the central gatekeeper. By mapping the web of influence, identifying the flying monkeys, and understanding the dynamics of triangulation, you are elevating your awareness from the tactical to the strategic. You are no longer just seeing the individual moves, you are seeing the entire campaign. You are developing the vision of a grandmaster. But there is one final layer of manipulation to understand. The most powerful manipulators do not just control what you do, they control what you feel. How do they weaponize your own emotions and turn them into instruments of their will? The next chapter will explore the dark art of emotional control, the most insidious tool in the Machiavellian Playbook. Remember to subscribe to Stealth Psychology, give this video a like, and comment with your personal opinions or suggestions for channel development. Chapter 5. Manipulate with Emotional Control. Imagine a master conductor standing before a vast orchestra. With a subtle flick of the wrist, they can summon a wave of triumphant joy. With a slight lowering of their hands, they can create a mood of profound sadness. With a sharp, sudden gesture, they can create a jolt of tension and fear. The conductor does not make a sound, yet they are in complete control of the emotional landscape of the entire room. A master manipulator is a conductor of human emotion. They understand that the most effective way to control a person's actions is to first control their feelings. They are not interested in winning a logical debate with you. They are interested in orchestrating your emotional state to produce a desired behavior. The problem for the person being manipulated is that this emotional roller coaster is incredibly disorienting and exhausting. You find yourself experiencing intense highs of validation and affection, followed by devastating lows of shame, guilt, and anxiety, often in rapid and unpredictable succession. Your own emotional well-being feels completely out of your control, rising and falling entirely based on the manipulator's mood and behavior. You start to feel emotionally unstable, as if there is something wrong with your own internal wiring, never realizing that you are simply an instrument being skillfully played in someone else's symphony. The transformative solution is to reclaim authorship of your own emotional state. You must learn to recognize how your feelings are being orchestrated so you can consciously refuse to follow the conductor's lead. The powerful mindset shift is from being an instrument in their orchestra to becoming the conductor of your own. This does not mean you will become unfeeling or emotionless. It means you will become the one who decides what music plays inside you. The core concept you will master is emotional sovereignty. This is the ultimate expression of personal power, the ability to choose your own emotional state, regardless of the external provocations of others. The benefit is that you become immune to the most potent form of manipulation. They can wave their baton as much as they like, but if you refuse to play the note of guilt or the chord of fear, their symphony of control falls silent. You find a deep, unshakable sense of inner peace that is no longer contingent on their approval or disapproval. The first and most powerful technique of emotional control you must understand is the push-pull dynamic, also known as intermittent reinforcement. This is the engine of all addictive relationships. The manipulator will alternate between periods of intense positive reinforcement, the pull, and periods of sudden cold withdrawal or criticism, the push. The pull phase is the love bombing, the intense flattery, the feeling that you are the most special person in the world. The push phase is the silent treatment, the nitpicking criticism, the emotional distance that leaves you feeling confused and desperate. This works because it creates a powerful biochemical addiction in your brain. The pull phase floods your system with dopamine, the chemical of reward and pleasure. The push phase creates a state of withdrawal and craving. You become like a gambler at a slot machine, enduring countless losses for the memory of the last win and the desperate hope for the next one. A clear example is the partner who is incredibly passionate and attentive for a week, making you feel completely adored. Then, because you did something minor that displeased them, they become cold, distant, and critical for days. Just when you are about to give up, they pull you back in with another grand gesture of love. To defend against this, you must see the cycle for what it is, a deliberate and predictable pattern, not a reflection of your worth. You must learn to see the pull not as a sign of their love, but as the bait being put back on the hook. The second powerful technique is weaponized pity, or playing the victim. Master manipulators are incredibly skilled at hijacking your natural sense of empathy and compassion. They often have a carefully curated narrative of their own tragic past, a long list of stories about how they have been wronged, misunderstood, and abandoned by everyone else. They use this narrative as both a shield and a weapon. This works because it makes you feel sorry for them and deeply guilty for ever holding them accountable for their own bad behavior. It effectively deflects any criticism and reframes you as the aggressor. For instance, you try to have a serious conversation with them about how their constant lateness is disrespectful to you. Instead of addressing the issue, they respond with a sad story. "I'm sorry. Punctuality has just always been hard for me. My father was always so critical of me if I was even a minute late. It gives me a lot of anxiety." Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about your valid feelings. it is about their past trauma. You find yourself comforting and reassuring them, and your original point is completely lost. The defense against this is to learn to hold two thoughts at once. You can have compassion for their past pain while still holding them accountable for their present behavior. A powerful response is, "I am truly sorry you had that experience. That sounds very difficult." And at the same time, "You're being late for our appointments is something we need to solve in our relationship today." You are refusing to let their past be an excuse for their present. The third technique is mastering emotional contagion. This is the subtle but powerful ability to project one's own mood onto the people and the environment around them. Humans are highly social creatures, equipped with what are known as mirror neurons, which cause us to subconsciously feel the emotions of those around us. A skilled manipulator uses this instinctively. They can walk into a happy, relaxed room in a silent rage, and within minutes, everyone will feel tense and on edge, trying to appease the unspoken anger. They can feign a deep sadness or vulnerability, causing everyone around them to feel a powerful urge to rush in and take care of them. This works because it allows them to control the emotional atmosphere of any situation without saying a word. To defend against this, you must practice emotional shielding. This is a visualization technique. Before you enter an interaction with a known emotional conductor, take a moment to imagine a protective bubble of light surrounding you. This is your personal emotional space. Set the intention that the emotions of others can come up to the bubble. You can observe them, but they cannot penetrate it. When the manipulator enters the room with their cloud of manufactured anger, you see it, you acknowledge it. I see that they are projecting anger, but you do not absorb it. You consciously choose to maintain your own state of calm within your bubble. This takes practice, but it is a vital skill for maintaining your emotional sovereignty. You now understand the addictive nature of the push-pull dynamic, the deceptive power of weaponized pity, and the subtle control of emotional contagion. You are no longer an unwitting instrument in their orchestra. But understanding all these pieces, the mind games, the persuasion tactics, the strategic positioning, the emotional control, is not the end of the journey. The final step is to synthesize this formidable knowledge. How do you take all these principles from the Machiavellian Playbook and use them not just for defense, but to proactively create a grand strategy for your own life and success? The next chapter is about mastering the strategy game. Remember to subscribe to Stealth Psychology, give this video a like, and comment with your personal opinions or suggestions for channel development. Chapter 6. Mastering the Strategy Game. Imagine again the Grandmaster chess player. A good player knows how all the pieces move. A great player understands tactics and can execute a clever fork or pin. But a Grandmaster, a true master of the game, operates on an entirely different level. They have a grand strategy. It is a long-term vision, a unifying plan that guides every single move they make, from the opening gambit to the final checkmate. They are not just reacting to their opponent's moves, they are forcing their opponent to react to their own overarching plan. This is the final stage in your journey through the Machiavellian Playbook. You have learned how to recognize mind games. You have learned the principles of persuasion. You have studied the tricks of the trade. You understand how to see the whole board, and you know how to manage emotional manipulation. You have all the tactical knowledge. The problem that many people face, even with all this knowledge, is that their life remains fundamentally reactive. They are skilled at defending against the agendas of others, but they lack a powerful, proactive agenda of their own. They have a formidable arsenal of tools, but they do not have a grand blueprint for what they want to build. They have mastered the how, but they have not yet defined their why. The transformative solution is to now become the Machiavellian strategist of your own life, but with a noble and clearly defined purpose. The powerful mindset shift is from, how do I protect myself from the world, to what is the great and worthy outcome I want to create in the world. You will now take all the principles of power, influence, and psychology that we have studied and apply them proactively to the achievement of your own goals. The core concept is the development of your grand strategy. This is not about plotting against others. It is about applying the discipline of strategic thinking to your own career, your own relationships, and your own personal growth. The manipulative person uses these tools to fill an inner void by gaining fleeting power over others. You will use these tools to create a life of genuine substance, purpose, and lasting success. This is the ultimate expression of mastery, turning the tools of deception into the tools of creation. The first and most critical step in developing your grand strategy is to define your kingdom. A strategy is useless without a clear objective. You must have absolute, crystal clear clarity on what you want to achieve. What does winning look like for you on your own terms? A vague goal like, "I want to be successful," is not a strategy. It is a daydream. You must define it with precision. This works because a clear, written goal engages your brain's reticular activating system, which is the part of your mind that filters information and pays attention to things that are important to you. Once you define what you want, your brain will start to notice opportunities and resources that you were previously blind to. The most powerful actionable step for this is to write a victory declaration. This is a detailed 1 to 2 page description of your ideal life 5 years from now, written in the present tense, as if it has already happened. Do not just write, "I have a good job." Write, "I wake up every Monday morning excited to lead my team at a company that values my expertise in your field. I am respected for my calm and decisive leadership." Describe your relationships, your health, your home, your state of mind. This document becomes your strategic North Star. The second principle of the master strategist is the economy of energy. A grandmaster knows that they have a finite amount of mental and emotional energy, and they do not waste it on pointless moves or trivial skirmishes. They understand that every ounce of energy spent on a toxic person or an unproductive battle is energy that cannot be invested in their grand strategy. This principle requires you to become ruthless in protecting your focus. You will now apply the defensive techniques you have learned, like the gray rock method and strategic disengagement, not just to overt manipulators, but to any situation, person, or task that drains your energy without contributing to your long-term goals. This works because it frees up an immense amount of a resource that you were previously leaking every single day. For instance, you might realize that the 2 hours you spend every week engaging in pointless arguments with a negative relative is energy that could be spent on an online course that would advance your career. You will learn to say a calm, firm no to distractions and obligations that are not aligned with your victory declaration. This is not selfish. It is the essence of strategic discipline. The third principle is building strategic alliances. Machiavelli himself wrote extensively on the importance of having strong, loyal allies. A lone wolf, no matter how clever, is vulnerable. The master strategist uses their knowledge of persuasion and influence not to trick people, but to build a powerful network of genuine, mutually beneficial relationships. You will now use the principles of liking, reciprocity, and entering their worldview to surround yourself with a mastermind group of mentors, talented colleagues, and supportive friends who are aligned with your success. This works by creating a powerful synergistic effect. Your allies will bring you opportunities you could not have found on your own. They will protect you from threats you did not see coming, and they will provide the support and accountability needed to execute your grand strategy. A practical application is to identify 5 people who are already where you want to be, or who possess skills you admire. Then, you strategically find ways to provide value to them first. You use your skills to help them with a project, you send them an article you know they will find interesting, you connect them with someone in your network. You build a foundation of goodwill, which is the bedrock of all powerful alliances. Finally, the master strategist operates with calculated boldness. Fear of failure makes most people hesitant and timid. They wait for the perfect moment, which never comes. The strategist, however, understands that risk is part of the game. Your knowledge of human psychology and influence gives you an advantage. It allows you to take calculated, intelligent risks that others are too afraid to take. This is not reckless gambling, it is a strategic offensive. This works because great opportunities are often guarded by a barrier of fear. Because you have trained yourself to handle resistance, to persuade effectively, and to understand the game, you have the confidence to make the bold move. This might be starting your own business, asking for a major promotion, or making a bold creative proposal. You are able to do this because you have a strategy not just for the technical aspects of the risk, but for managing the most unpredictable element of all, the people involved. The Machiavellian Playbook is ultimately a guide to achieving results. The manipulative individual uses its principles to gain fleeting power over others, an act which only serves to deepen the emptiness within them. The true master, the strategist that you are becoming, uses these same principles to gain power over the only thing that truly matters, their own destiny. The ultimate art of deception is not in fooling others, but in deceiving the limitations you once placed upon yourself. It is about executing a grand strategy that leads to a life of authentic power, profound purpose, and an integrity so solid that it becomes your greatest strength. Throughout this book, we have journeyed into the complex and often misunderstood world of Machiavellian strategy. We began by unlocking the mind games that play out beneath the surface of our daily lives, learning to see the hidden board. We mastered the timeless principles of persuasion, not as a tool for trickery, but as a method for building connection and alignment. We deconstructed the common tricks of the trade to render ourselves immune to their effects. We learned to see the strategic web of human interaction, to understand emotional manipulation, and finally, to synthesize all this knowledge into a grand strategy for our own lives. The core lesson is that the tools of power are in themselves neutral. It is the intention and the integrity of the user that defines them. True mastery is not the power to control others, but the power to control yourself and to architect a life of purpose. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to mastering the art of strategy. If this guide has proven valuable, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to Stealth Psychology, and sharing your own insights in the comments section below.